Good evening, and welcome back to the Horns Down podcast, along with Hall of Fame College Football and Sooners 360 post-game show. I'm here with Chris Griffin, our guy Chris Mason, of course myself, Jason Watkins, and we're going to talk about this 59-14 win for the Oklahoma Sooners over Maine. Obviously, big last three quarters, I guess you might put it as, certainly that first quarter, a lot of people were a little concerned about the way they came out. I think we were just saying in the green room, Seth Littrell might not have done a whole lot for his career moving forward. Chris Griffin, what were your thoughts about the show? Let me know, and then we'll go obviously to Chris Mason as well.
Hey man, real quick before we even start on OU, hats off. Gotta clap. Not talking about the team. I'm talking about PV, right? I really like that PV kid. That's the quarterback from Maine. Kind of felt is very reminiscent of the Tulane quarterback that came here during the last year with Riley. Took an ass whooping, was getting hurried awful lot, but he kept getting back up. So shout out to that kid right there. He showed a lot of heart, just sticking with it. But overall, look, I'll be the first to say, guys, this game means nothing, right? It means nothing at all. All it was just a great tune-up for the last three games of the season to go out there and get guys in rhythm, get some guys some more confidence, and get a lot of these young guys really good reps, right? Defensively, I thought we were just a tad bit lackadaisical. I'm cool with what they're doing, kind of trying to transition into, hey, Danny, we want you to make the call or whatnot on defense, which he was obviously doing, he and Billy, but, kind of being a little bit more methodical about it, obviously, because Maine is going to give you that much more time. However, we have to be quicker with our calls to get ready to get lined up. We're not lining up. And that's taking us out of some plays. Other thing defensively, I would just say is I just, talking to my uncle, he's on me. Chris, we got to get a better pass rush. We need a better pass rush, got to be dominant. But it's kind of a give and take because there was a lot of holding going on. And guys were winning one-on-one battles. It was bad out there. If you watch those replays and you just look at it, it's bad out there. I mean, like when PJ, when they got that whole call on PJ, like you thought that was bad. There was some really bad missed calls out there, but it is what it is. Overall, though, man, just happy that the team got a win. Happy for Jovantae Barnes. It looks like the vision is back. Things are okay. He's hitting the holes hard. I don't know if it's going to be like that the rest of the way out, but it felt good seeing him out there. Offensively, I thought you did more of the same. Some guys dropped some passes. That fumble with Franklin, that was totally unnecessary. To me, I want to say that we are running a competent offense. I think our play caller is competent. However, sometimes I do question him with the pitch plays, with the speed options. You don't have to run speed option against Maine. You don't have to run speed option against a lot of people, right? Because you're putting Jackson Arnold in a bind simply because you're asking him to do what? Think more, right? And right now, I just kind of want him to be in rhythm, be in stride. And the one time that he finally pitches the ball, we get a fumble on that, right? Got a touchdown off of it a few plays later, but still. You just like what you saw. I thought the offensive line, they played pretty well today. Didn't really give up any sacks. Didn't really give up any crazy pressures or whatever. Jackson was very decisive with the ball. I thought we had played complimentary football. Probably those last three quarters. That first quarter was kind of an anomaly, but outside of that, man, it was a good win. It's good to be back close to being bowl eligible or whatnot. We got a good game. I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be the toughest game because they're reeling as well, just as much as we are, even if they don't want to admit it, Missouri. But hey, it is what it is. You got to go out there and put teams like this away. That's what you're supposed to do. But yeah, it felt good, coming in, and I'll ask the panel this, and this will be the last thing I say for now. I heard on the radio the other day, and I asked this to Barry. Shout out to Barry from Barry and Max show. But what did you want? Coming to what would you rather have? 100-yard rusher or 300 yards in the air. Folks, it looks like we pretty much got both, right? Or essentially we got both. And so you couldn't have asked for a better day for these guys to kind of get them some confidence.
Chris Mason, tell us what you told us as we were coming in.
Well, someone I trust, and I won't give his name away, but he said that he'd received a text message. Well, actually, sorry, I got a text message from him saying that basically Seth Luttrell is the worst offensive coordinator of all time. Now, I've seen Joe Dickerson, John Blake football, so that's saying a lot to me.
Well, it was worse.
To me, yeah. So, I mean, what I did I got another comment from a friend of mine, and he says that he thought the offense looked competent. And what he means by that was even though we were playing bad competition like Temple, Tulane, Houston, the O-line didn't even look like they knew what they were doing and who to block. And he says that they're at least right now latching onto the right guy or working towards the right guy every time. Like they seem to know what they're doing. And they may be not executing perfectly every time, but they are certainly hitting folks and getting more drive. And obviously, to me, the one play that I thought was the most encouraging play of the first half was Jovantae Barnes on that counter, where you saw him patiently waiting for the hole to open up before he darted through for it was, I think the second or third touch. He set up the second or third touchdown.
Yeah.
Where he darted through and went 30 yards down to the 5, I think. But when you saw him actively, patiently waiting to read the block and not just flying through and hitting somebody. I mean, some folks have called, Jovantae a tackle magnet, a defender magnet. He just seems to he would just hit. No vision in his runs, just hitting the first defender he sees. Tough physical runner, but wasn't making people miss and wasn't reading his blocks very well. Well, I know it's Maine, but if you watched him today, he was doing both of those at a very high level. So I think that's the most encouraging point. One, that he's doing that. Two, that the O-line is creating holes. I know it's Maine. We'll just kind of get all those caveats out the way.
They know what they're doing, right? I mean, that's the thing is it looks like they have an idea of where they're supposed to be blocking, who they're going to be blocking. There's not as much question about it, as the early part of the play. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and make no bones about it. I mean, our starting offensive tackles are Howland and Spencer Brown, right?
Yeah.
We still road graded for over 300 yards rushing. If you had told me pregame we'd be down Tarquin and Sexton and Taylor and said, but we're going to rush for 380 yards in this game, I'd be like, yeah, what are you talking? Was it? I'm sorry, that may not be the exact total. It's 381.
Yeah, 381.
If you said we're gonna rush for 381 yards, I'd be like, get the F out of here. What the hell are you talking about?
Right.
So it's to me. To pitch my Patreon side, I said 3 things I was looking for post Ole Miss and pre-Maine. One, does Jackson Arnold look like a salvageable quarterback with a quarterback coach and an offensive game plan? And I think that's correct, which means your future OC choice is not predicated on whether they can bring a veteran quarterback with them. Number 2, is the O-line at least look incrementally better week over week with a functional game plan and a better idea of what they're doing? And I think that's bearing out. They look like they look better. They're hitting folks. They look like, to Jason's point and my friend's point, they look like they know who they're supposed to block. Whether they do or not, that's a down over down kind of question, but they don't look lost. No one looks lost out there. They seem to know what their job is. And 3, are the skill groups looking better with a better game plan and a better offensive line? And overall, I would say the running back group, if you still want to fire DeMarco Murray, I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. Those decisions can be made down the road. But looking at Barnes's season, someone's coaching him up, right?
Yeah.
Because we saw an entire season of him looking, the first 4 games he was running hard, but he was running into folks, and now we're seeing him, especially out of the backfield. He's making folks miss. He's avoiding tackles, and he's showing a much better read of where he should go in terms of open lanes. So
it feels like we're really looking for that change of pace back, and I think that could either be Tatum or Sacha. But hey, Jason, if you don't mind, I do want to just stop here real quick because I want to get Chris Mason's opinion, because Chris Mason has been all over the O-line. So shout out to Zayas B. Lou. All you hear from a lot of people, not just him, but Jason Brickman. We need to start Eddie Pierre Lou at guard. You hear hold on, let me see. Coconut Greg, let's hope EPL earn a start for next week. I know the competition level and stuff like that, but at the same time, you just gotta think, like, I mean, he's physical out there, he's violent out there, he wants to hit somebody. One thing that always has stuck with me, if you ever watched the Oklahoma breakdown, I key in on that to see what Gabe is saying about the offensive line, because he's echoing a lot of people's thoughts. But one thing that he was saying, like last year, was that at times it felt like even when he's saying, even as an offensive lineman, if you don't know what you're doing, hit somebody. Be physical, be violent, hit somebody. EPL is doing a lot of that. A lot of that. He was moving people. He was doing a lot of that. And just kind of going back to the people are talking about X-Rob as well. He looked good. He looked good. He looks like he could be a 3-down back, whatever you want him to be. He could be that. But we'll talk about that later as far as kind of freshmen that stood out to you in this game. But as far as that offensive line, did you see anything from that offensive line that would say, hey, if Sexton, Taylor, or Tarquin are healthy next week, we still need to play these guys here?
I would say Howland, his run blocking looked really pretty good out there. I think his pass pro is going to get better and better the more reps he gets. Spencer Brown's kind of a challenge out there. They played Autry in the fourth quarter, and we can talk a little bit about that. But if you could get Tarquin Black to play right tackle, I think that would be ideal. But I think there's a very good chance, based on what a source told me, and it's injury stuff, so I hate really kind of going there. But I think there's a very good chance Sexton and Taylor are done for the year. It's just, we know Sexton hurt his knee, and I think Taylor's nagging injuries have just kind of worn him down at this point where he needs to shut it down. I don't know if he needs to get some surgery to clean something up. I have no idea. But I think I would go with Tarquin. Obviously, Nuewu is playing better now that Everett showed up, and someone's telling him who to hit on a consistent basis. So he's doing much better. Everett's obviously playing better. Obviously, there was the bad timing connection. But Eddie Pierre, EPL's your future, right? I mean, you could just see him out there once he really knows what he's doing. He's gonna, Jenna James, Big Jen says Howland did look better run blocking today. He did. He's a work in progress, but if by the time we get to December, he's gonna have probably started 4 games, so his improvement curve is gonna be pretty rapid, I think. I think I agree if Autry should get snaps over Brown, but you just couldn't throw Autry in there going from scout team to starting a football game today. You had to use Brown as a gateway to get Autry to the game. So I think, Chris, the only change I would make would be Tarquin for Spencer Brown. But overall, the interior line's playing better. Ozida and Howland, you ran behind those two guys a lot today, and they were moving folks, and obviously they're moving Maine folks. But as we saw Temple, we couldn't run like this on Temple. We didn't. mean, we put up points on Temple, but that was mainly because the defense was short yardage and scoring and stuff like that. I mean, we drove the field here, opened up holes for big running plays that we didn't do against Temple and Houston, two pretty bad defenses. So I think having a coherent scheme and a coherent game plan, and Bill and DeMarco knowing what to tell their respective players, it just shows you can't be Keystone Cops on offensive line 4 weeks ago and then drop nearly 400 yards rushing on air in a couple of weeks without there being something systemically has changed. Something has changed from a coaching perspective. Like I said, to me, Barnes, if you say DeMarco's not coaching, I would say, well, please explain to me why Jovantae Barnes looks like a completely different running back than last year.
The only downside to DeMarco to me this year is the fact that Franklin is playing over Hicks. I think Hicks is a better running back, and I think he would be better regardless of what's going on.
I think they lost him though. I think they had to have lost him by now. Not playing him this amount of time, they had to have lost the kid by now.
Yeah. Jason, if you want to go, you can go, but I'd like for you to react to this right here as well when after you kind of give your thoughts about the game as well.
Well, we can go ahead and start there. Seeing all I wanted to see in this game, Jay, stand in the pocket was very good, and the confidence can move forward. Yeah, I think that this is why you like this game. If you're an SEC, a fan of an SEC team, this is why you like these football games at the end of the season, is because in a situation like what you've seen Oklahoma be in a 3-game losing streak and can't really get anything right, you get a chance to kind of work on some stuff. You'll still see whether or not it's going to be workable or not. Some of the plays that, it's a broken play and they still bust it for a long run, you don't really count those. But it gives you an opportunity to kind of see against some live action of what it is that you're going to get out of certain people. I think getting an opportunity for these just to kind of piggyback off of what Kchris was saying, I'm a fan of what these young guys look like, all of them. We talked about Akinkumi in there. I'm hearing people talking about Daniel Akinkumi, and then obviously Isaiah Autry-Dent, EPL pancaking that guy and getting a penalty was cool. I was happy with that. A lot of these things that you want to see, because I think that moving forward, I think there was a question yesterday on Twitter talking about whether or not they may go really heavy in the portal after this year for offensive line. I don't want them to. I want to develop the guys you've picked up in the last 2 years, plus the guys you've got coming in this year. If there's somebody that's a can't miss, then I think you go get them. But I don't think there's a lot of those guys in the portal anyway. So I was glad to kind of see some of these guys moving forward. I want to see more of that moving forward. That's just kind of how I feel about it. One of the things I wanted to bring up though is Jackson Arnold actually coming back? I know we've heard from Jay a bunch that he thinks both quarterbacks are coming back. Is Jackson Arnold coming back? I have a feeling that Jackson Arnold he's playing the business game right. He's saying the right things. He's doing the right things. He's playing well. Yes, he burned his red shirt. What does that really mean though? Because I don't know that it means a whole lot. Jason,
where does he go? Does he go to TCU? Does he go? Is Notre Dame going to actually have an opening? Does he go to Baylor? I mean, a lot of places that he's going outside of like the Notre Dames of the world that I just named. And I don't even necessarily know if that's a lateral move, because I mean, hell, Riley Leonard. I mean, they're in a winning position right now, better team right now, better continuity than us. Right. But are we really expecting them to go out there and truly win a national championship this year? No, right? But at the same time, what I would say is outside of that program right there, every other place is a step down. And
I don't know that it is a step down though if you're looking at the way that the whole quarterback room was handled this year. Bottom line, and I think that's where you hurt. Where Seth Luttrell hurt this team the most was showing zero ability to. We've heard a ton of stuff coming out of there that there was none of those guys were being developed whatsoever.
If Jackson Arnold leaves, all that's telling me is that he wants to go play in this bear raid RPO based system, and that he doesn't feel that he can compete and win a job in whatever system is incoming, right? I don't see that. I think that he's going to be excited about the OC hire. I think it will be an OC hire that can do the best of, has the best of both worlds. A playbook that will work not only for Jackson, but a playbook that would work for Michael Hawkins as well. But I do believe that you're going to see an open quarterback competition with probably a portal guy coming in as well. I think Jackson Arnold is staying. I just don't see how or why he would leave given the circumstances. You had a rough patch, went out there, things didn't work. Now you're playing the best football that I think we all can agree, regardless of the loss last week. It's the best football we've seen from Jackson Arnold. Throw the Arizona game out, throw the first 4 games out of the window. This is the best football that we've seen from Jackson Arnold. He looks competent. He looks comfortable. He looks competent, and he looks decisive out there. And that's been a really, really, really big deal. That touchdown to Hester, even though it's an amazing play, you kind of wish that he was staying in the pocket. I mean, Jacob Jordan is running down the middle of the field, wide the freak open, right? But even at that same time, it's still a hell of a play that he's making, right? And you've seen offense, scheme, competent play calling, and you've also seen Jackson step up and make a hell of a plays. So I just think like he has the momentum. I think he's way more than salvageable. I think he has reestablished himself as honestly the quarterback of the future at OU for now. I think it just depends on this hire, man. This hire is make or break.
You're muted, Kchris.
Muted.
If you're sitting down with Jackson and Arnold and his parents, to whatever degree they want to be involved in this decision-making process, right? I think if you're Brent, you say, I'm sorry, Jackson. I hung you out to dry this year with not having a quarterback coach dedicated to you. That was a mistake. I own it. We're bringing in an OC who is a quarterback coach, or we will have a dedicated quarterback coach for you, fully on staff, not just as an analyst. Not, we will not in your tenure here not have a dedicated quarterback coach with you who is an experienced quarterback developer. Screwed that up. My mistake. It's hurt us. It's hurt us on the field, and we won't do it again. Because, the play Jackson made to Hester is his best play since the Arizona game, right? I mean, scrambling to the right and throwing that deep pass so accurately, that's the best play he's made, since the Arizona game in the passing game. So, to me, again, competent offensive game plan. Jackson now has a quarterback coach on the sideline to talk to after every series, has a guy coaching him during the week. It just doesn't appear to be a coincidence here that OU has changed things up and things look more competent, more professional. It doesn't seem to be at this point, I can't, the competition level today was what it was, but you put up 59 points and nearly 600 yards of, nearly 700 yards of offense. I mean, it is what it is. This is just what we did, and it just highlights the change made, and it makes me wonder why we didn't make it 3 games earlier.
Yeah.
Now, Kchris, you're on mute.
It feels an awful like this is how I truly feel about this season, okay? I don't necessarily think that Joe Judge moves the needle, not necessarily for the fan base, obviously, but play calling has been better. I'll give it that. But I feel like at the very least, if Joe Judge was the primary play caller, right? You kind of and had Kevin Johns as the QB coach or in Latrell or whatever position he was going to be in. I think Latrell would have been great for tight ends. regardless, though, I still think that OU fans are probably sitting here in a position of it feels good, but it feels like we need a little bit more, right? Like just a little bit more, like an excellent play caller, right? Like a guy, not a jag, just a guy, like the guy, like the dude, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he still leaves a little bit to the imagination. There's still some play calling. Like you just have to know, like probably 2 out of 10 plays, and you don't know where those 2s are going to pop up, but there's going to be 2 that still make you go like, what are we doing? Like, why would you've been successful at this the entire time? They have no answer for this. What are you doing? Right? Well, like I think the speed option plays, those were the plays today that made no sense. And then also,
it was a good pitch. It was a good pitch. Jackson pitched both speed options perfectly today.
Right. Yeah, but he held a couple as well. But last week against Ole Miss, the 2 pop pass plays, it just doesn't make any sense when everything else is working. Yeah. But it's just that's
every coordinator, though. I mean, I think we're so dialed in on what they do with every play and what. I mean, but I don't think there's a coordinator in the world that dials it up perfect on every play. And maybe that's something that he's seen in practice that he really likes. I would ask you though, talking about this, do you think that if one of the guys asked this, and I think it was I was trying to remember who it was. Let me look it through here, but asking the question of whether or not if Joe John beats Missouri, do they consider him for the coordinator position moving forward? I'm going to just say myself, no. I think he has to do a lot more than that.
If his position was better coached and more productive and better recruited, yes.
Yeah.
But he's not just dealing with the prior deficits of the offensive coaching staff prior to him, this Luttrell problem. He's dealing with 2 years of deficits at his position in terms of recruiting and development, just recruiting and development. So he's got 2 deficits there, right? Because if you make him OC, that other spot has to go to a quarterback coach. So Joe John, you still have to fix the tight end room. Barris Sharp again, missing blocks against, whiffing on blocks, not in the right position against Maine.
Not a blocker, man.
He's just, if he isn't, who is? It's nice that Caden Helms got a touchdown catch, and I think Davin Mitchell could be a great college tight end with development. So Joe John's got 2 ledgers, and his offensive coordinator ledger, it doesn't look bad. Let's just face it. It looks better than what we had before, right? We've gone from an F- to like C work. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it looks so it's a massive improvement, right? Like, if you're a teacher and the kid has a 40 and then he scores a 70, you're thinking, well, that's a significant jump in performance.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still a C. You still got a C, kid. So the problem is, what do you do if Joe John, if you like what he's doing an offensive coordinator, what do you do about his tight end coaching? Because he's not recruiting the position well, either from the portal or from high school, and he's not developing his guys.
No.
So, they're just not productive out on the field. So, both of those, I think the OU fans could excuse one, but they're not going to excuse both. And Brent should not excuse both.
That's the perfect way to cap it off. No, go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I think that's what I was saying, is that I don't think that I wasn't talking as much about the recruiting stuff, because I'm going to say this. He got Devon Mitchell. Now you can say Hawkins got Devon Mitchell. If that's what you want to do. He's still got Devon Mitchell. That he's going to be that guy. We see that. Right. And so I wouldn't go that far on the recruiting. I know everybody wants to do all that stuff. And they did the same thing they've been doing the same thing with Bill Bedenbaugh. He's got the best offensive line class in the country if he gets it signed. And then they did all that with Bates and Chavis too the last couple of years. Joe John was just the next guy in line on that part. That being said, I don't know that you can get out of the shadow of what Seth Littrell put you in, though. I don't.
Well, it to me, it's not even that, guys. I think what it is that regardless if you go out there and beat Missouri, right? You still got Bama, you still got LSU. We could talk about those things. Even if you go out there and you look good against them, hell, maybe even you beat one of those teams, right? I think the problem is, for me, is that even though we are all very, very happy that he has simplified the offense and guys are going north-south, things look competent, you feel more confident on third downs now. The third down efficiency is something nobody's talking about. That it is steadily improving at a decent rate. Not a great rate, but a decent rate. You feel better about what play calls are going to come.
Picked up a 3rd and 13 today.
Exactly. However, the problem is that it still feels like, hey, even though he simplified this, I don't care what you're saying. If you give him a whole summer or whatever the case may be, that shit is not going to work. You know what I'm saying, Jason? Like, it's just not, because this is a very dumbed down version of what Levy was running. He hasn't been the guy. You tried that already with both of those guys. Let's not act like Littrell was the primary play caller, had his ways, did not work at all. Joe John has been better. But at the same time, you cannot handicap yourself. This is make or break. And I don't think Joe C or anybody is going to let that. That's whenever it would kind of be taken out of BV's hands as far as this is what you're going to do. His hand was forced with the Littrell fire, and I think it'll be forced with Joe John. I think at the very least, Joe John could potentially save his job with that, but I think you're still bringing somebody in that you would maybe – in a way, like, you got to have a recruiter at that position. And I think if you bring a new OC in, I don't necessarily know where Joe John fits in that. I think Joe John should go to Mississippi State, go to Ole Miss, wherever the case may be, and really work his chances. I think it's better at best at Mississippi State. What he's done has been commendable for this transition, because this is not easy. I think we all need to understand this is not easy, and this is not necessarily day and night, but he's made it at least look that way to what we compared to what we were doing. But again, like I said, the best thing that Joe John has done is give those younger guys and Jackson Arnold a chance to run a simple offense to look competent. Littrell never did that and never really tried to develop a true scheme to say Jackson can run this, opposed to whatever we saw. But no.
Well, there wasn't any stacking of plays or doing anything that you're trying to build upon for the rest of the season. Even there wasn't. As much as we bitched about Jeff Lebby last year not being great situationally, right? Which is really all it was. At least you were seeing that he was trying to do something, and I think a lot of this is looking back on it, but you were seeing a lot of the things that he was trying to stack plays and do things off of what they do as a base program, right? Yeah. Running the football their certain way and doing certain things in the passing game. We don't know what the hell Seth Littrell was trying to do. We don't. We know that he was alienating everybody on his staff, and there wasn't any kind of communication as far as what are we going to be doing this weekend. I think it was just unprepared. A lot of it was unprepared, and that's the biggest part. I think that what we're going to see from Joe John is you're trying to put something on tape for your next job. It's not probably going to be at Oklahoma. That's fine. But I think that you can move forward knowing that, okay, we have competency up in the booth right now.
I think the only wild card in this, and I would say the odds of this are like 0.0.125, something like that, right? So I'll give you the only caveat on this is if in some magical way, and I think magic is probably the right word to apply. Let's just say Burks and Farouk come back from Missouri. You knock off Missouri. Alabama drops the LSU game, comes into town, 3 losses out of the college football playoff. DeBoer and that whole program are imploding. They have a terrible show. They come in terrible shape, terrible showing in Norman. Somehow Joe John calls a great game plan. Jackson plays great. You knock off Alabama. And then LSU somehow has screwed things up some other way and is in disarray as well. And if he ran the table and OU was 8-4, and each game against better competition looks successively better in all facets, you get back a couple of, you have Burks and Farouk back, who I think would be a quantum addition in the passing game. If you get that back, then that would be possible. But you still have to deal with the fact that, and I'll fight Jason a little bit on this. Davin Mitchell came because of Hawkins.
I did say that.
But I'm telling you, he really did. I talked to Davin. He really came because of Mike Hawkins.
I think it was clear before he showed up that it was because of Hawkins. No doubt.
So I do think that's the problem. How do you now? Obviously, if Caden Helms starts playing better and Bowers start playing better, I think Caden McIntyre is like a waste of a scholarship at this point. Sorry, kid, you're hurt and you're small and you're not really big enough for a tight end. So put on 20. See if you can be an H-back for us. If for some reason the tight end started playing quantifiably better, you notice Davin Mitchell didn't play today. Or at least I didn't see him. It was Caden Helms out there as the backup tight end, the third tight end on the field. So if that happened, maybe the big money donors and the fan base would be like, okay, just the good feelings off those wins could allow it. But other than that, big money donors, I'll tell you, they want the guy. They want Brent to go interview the best offensive coordinator candidates he can find nationally and hire one of them. And they're telling Joe C that's what they want. So, and they're the ones controlling NIL money these days. So they have a little more push than they would have had in the past, where Joe C might have been like, nah, now we need $13 million for our NIL money. We need to close and sign for Susi and Foji and all those deals. They have a little more push, but I would say that's the only thing. But,
I'm under the simple impression of this right here. If you keep JJF, screw his job. Your BV would be in that. I mean, he would be under a lot of fire because a lot of people would feel that he's handicapping the program.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's his job. It's Brent's job.
Not only that too, but and the reason why I say handicap, let me unpack that just for a second. The reason why I say you're handicapping the program is simply because you're taking a step back, because you're going back to square one of what you did initially this year. You tried to keep continuity for Jackson on him.
Right. I mean, if for some reason you keep, let's just say I'm right, or let's say they go 7-5 or something ridiculous like that, right? Let's just say that happens. Something a little more realistic, right? For some reason you decide you want, and Jackson's playing so much better. Kevin Johns, who I think Brent's impressed by, most people would say he has an impressive resume, right? As a QB coach.
Yeah.
So if that happens, it's not just, I mean, it's you're handicapping the program, because if it tanks, you're firing Brent, and that's taking the program back 2 steps, right? Because in the day of the portal, it used to be, you could keep your roster together, but in the portal, we saw a lot of young talent out there today, which we could migrate to as a topic. You lose Brent on defense, there's a lot of young talent on defense that could easily find itself elsewhere.
Yeah. A lot of talent, and talking to Ty Hayes, Roundtable Sports, our guy Ty is always in my ear about, I talked to this coach, talked to that coach, that man, they would love to have that kid. Man, they want that kid so bad, offensive and defensively. So think about it, people. But I don't see it happening. I think he gets it right. But with
it would be great, right? It'd be great if Johns and Joe John had a good run to the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they both could find jobs elsewhere, right? Yeah. They've done really well. So instead of Brent having to say, don't let the door hit you on the way out, they're able to say, hey, I've got a job somewhere else, right? Like, look, don't worry about firing me. Can you just leave it open, and I've got a job, and I'll just say I'm leaving OU to go to somewhere better. I've got a position elsewhere, right? That would be ideal from a recruiting standpoint. Everywhere else, like I've got a better. I've moved on. You know, it's all working out. That would be the ideal scenario.
What else we got here?
Let's talk freshmen. Let's talk young kids.
Yeah, let's
talk young.
Love it.
Let's talk young kids.
Hey, I'll start it off. Hey, David Stone.
Oof.
If you haven't bought any stock this season, I know we bought the hype, right? We bought the hype. But if you haven't bought any hype with what you're seeing now, I'm not even talking about just Maine. There's been a couple of games where he's flashed. Maybe didn't get home, but didn't finish, but he's getting home. A lot of the same things that you're seeing from Jaden Jackson, where he's just popping up open, nobody on block. Excuse me. David Stone is out there playing his ass off
with a club on his arm.
Exactly. Other freshmen, obviously, who else looked good out there?
Well, I mean, let's talk. I know it's the fourth quarter, and Maine had just been getting their ass kicked, but for a guy who a lot of people weren't sure we should have offered, X-Rob looked damn good today.
Yes.
I mean, the swing pass where he just basically trucked that linebacker is like, didn't even truck him, was just sort of like, get out of my way, dude.
Mm-hmm.
How nimble he looks for a big guy, how much shape he's in so much better shape than high school. He was a thick, sort of tubby kind of soft kid, around 255, 260. He's obliterated all that bad weight. I mean, he looked like a closer for you. I mean, if you're getting beaten up by Jovantae Barnes and you're trying to follow Tatum around for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden they roll out this 230-pound freshman, who's going to hit you. I mean, that touchdown run where he just barreled over that guy and got in the end zone. I mean, all props to him, because a lot of folks weren't sure he was OU good, but he was certainly good enough to make Maine wish we never got the ball back in the fourth quarter, because he beat those guys up and he looked nimble and athletic doing it.
No doubt.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I think you've been seeing flashes from David Stone for the last few weeks too. So it was cool. It was cool to kind of see him kind of step in there and get what he got. But we saw him do really well last week against Ole Miss as well. I think that you're starting to see him kind of move forward, and we've been talking about that quite a bit. I think on all the shows, that where Jaden Jackson was more ready to come in right away, but it was always good to have Jaden Jackson because of the fact that Stoney thinks so much of him as well, and they work so hard together, that you were going to see him kind of step up later in the year. I think that was been the expectation coming into the season, but it's good to see it. Definitely good to see it. My favorite, I like seeing X-Rob as well. I think that Xavier Robinson and hitting that on the outside, man, the way he shed that guy, and he was trying to wrap him up and everything else, and he just shed him like it was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's got speed. He's able to kind of bust through some of those tackles. Again, you can talk about it being Maine all you want to. It's easy to do that. We haven't gotten an opportunity to see some of these guys in any other situations.
It's easy. It's perfectly okay to discuss a guy like that who we haven't seen all season come in there, his first college snaps, regardless of the if this was earlier in the year, everybody would be like, oh my God, this kid here is this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'll be honest with you. With him, I'm not all the way there yet, but Ramondre, that's what I could see with a kid like that. Maybe, Ramondre. Right now, I think that's what I was thinking when I saw him. There's some of those hits that he was laying on people. Some of these laying on, I was like, he's a very, very physical running back. Hey man, look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I keep saying this, man. This has not been a season that we wanted. It has not been perfect. It is not the way that we thought it would go. But I will say there's beauty in this. There's light at the end of the tunnel. When guys like Jaden Hardy guys like Michael Boganowski are getting real snaps. I'm not just talking about just meaningless snaps. I'm not talking about just this Maine game. But when they're getting real snaps, which they have been getting throughout the year, that's going to pay dividends for us next year. Where no, we may not have Billy back there next year, but we should have RSJ. And at the very end of the day, Peyton Bowen's going to be there. Jaden Hardy another year in the program. With time, you got Boganowski, you got Reggie Powers. You kind of got to feel
pick.
good.
I know it got wiped out by the roughing call, but
Yeah.
that pick by Powers was damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, that downfield coverage by a safety, that was pretty good. I mean, you also saw, I believe, Newcomb and Devon Jordan were also out there making plays at cornerback. So, I mean, there's a lot of defensive talent on this team. I mean, and a lot of it coming back for this year and the next year. And if they can keep this core, I've said this on my recruiting podcast like a half dozen times. So you heard Brent this week talking about the young safety group, right? Like, we hit it. We nailed this in recruiting, right? These three guys are really good. Well, I think the cornerback group they've got coming in and the safety group they've got coming in all fits in that category too. Guillory, Haynes, Hawkins, all big cornerbacks, and then Wimberly and Robinson at safety. I think you're reloading the secondary again. So all those guys running around, when you combine them, and we just know you can never have enough secondary depth, especially in the SEC or anywhere and passing games out there. I thought that was just great for me to see out there. Also, looks like Owen Heineke is maybe somebody who's going to be a factor at linebacker down the road after we lose some of the other guys we have. Was it Davon Sears who's making all the plays? 96. Obviously, he's not coming back, so that's disappointing. A little disappointing.
I think when you're talking about Davon Sears, you kind of wonder what could have been with him. He never really showed enough to get in much of the game. You know, I think
hard to get in there, right? With the guys. With
this year,
this year. I mean, you kind of wish you could bring him back for next year, but yeah, I thought that, you know, there's so many young guys, and again, you know, at this point, we're playing 3 or 4 redshirt freshmen, true freshman offensive linemen today, right? Howland, Ozetta, EPL, and Autry. Again, to your point, Jason, why do we want to sign portal guys when we should be giving those guys runway in spring and summer to develop and become players we can count on?
I have a hard time with that. I think that you end up with a bunch of guys that you want to know whether they're good or not at this time of the year. And if you do need to have them and they haven't really been developed because they haven't been getting looks, it's a waste of it. So to me, I think that both sides of the line, you have to build through high school. Yeah. You have to build through high school.
You do. You may be able to pick up a guy here or there.
Right. It has to be supplementary. It cannot
be
your
one dude here or there who's a definite starter, like Dominic Williams. Okay.
Yeah.
Jovantae, who I didn't think was going to be a huge piece for us, but that's obviously just shows Todd Bates coaching, right? 2 years under Todd Bates. Jovantae looks great. I think he's going to be on NFL. He's going to be on an NFL roster.
Sure.
But I think you're right. We need, in the off season, in the portal, we need to grab one offensive lineman, and if we can find a tackle who is no questions asked, then you pull the trigger on it. Other than that, you know, I mean, Fasusi Friday night is blocking and smashing people on a bum ankle.
Did his comments worry you a little bit when he said it would take basically to move heaven and earth for him to flip?
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think it's fine.
I think that was saying he's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's fine. I think they're all. I mean, we're getting closer and closer, right, to signing day and them enrolling at OU, right? Because they're all enrolling early, and that they're about to receive their OU acceptance letters. Academic acceptance letters here in the next couple of weeks. So I think we're gonna be able to hold on to the O-line guys. I think also, you know, when you hear Brent's comments, I think, and people are gonna go nuts over this, and they're just gonna have to deal with it. if you listen to Brent's comments the last week or so, I think he's probably leaning more towards keeping Brent Venables and the offensive coordinators we're looking at. I don't see a lot of guys.
Big Bill.
Yeah, I think he's leaning more towards that. I think as the O-line plays better after the Luttrell, I mean, to a certain point, and this is unfair, but maybe unrealistic. But at a certain point, if I'm BV, I'm just wiping out the Luttrell games off everyone's resume and just saying, show me what you got before Luttrell and after Luttrell. The Luttrell stuff is just a mess. I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just wiping it off the board.
Right. I think the only thing
it's a mess. It's a mess. I don't know what to do with any of it at this point.
I don't think you can make anything of it other than the fact that it did suck. It wasn't good. It wasn't good for anybody. I think that a lot of the people that are on that let's fire Big Bill Bedenbaugh train should maybe be quiet now, right now. And that's probably why we don't see Sooner Cowboys in here right now, guys, all of you folks that are wondering, because that's a broken record when it comes to those guys. The O-line was what it was, and I think that anybody would tell you that it could have been a hell of a lot better. But part of it is just knowing where you're supposed to be blocking. And I don't think that anybody had a clue what was supposed to be going on for the better part of the season because of the fact that you had the wrong guy making decisions.
And there was so much confusion that apparently at least Bill and DeMarco didn't know what the hell was going on to coach up their guys during the week.
That's right.
I mean, and that maybe I'm giving too much excuse and rope for those guys, but that's what it's starting to sound like. And we have 2 games of evidence that suggests that's what was going on at this point.
Yeah. Bagman, I would say that you can let the new OC make whatever changes, and you can't let a recruit. It's not a recruit. It's the entire recruit class. It's the number one.
Yeah, Bagman, you're right. You're right.
It's the number one offensive line class in the country, though. I just don't see. I don't know that. Does BV hire a guy that doesn't want to keep Big Bill? No.
The one thing that I'll say about this offensive line class and Chris Mason is guys definitely go check out his content because he's going to be more versed in this. But I feel the Afalavas, the Fasusis. I feel you couple that with everybody's the Autry kid, EPL. From what I saw today, these kids are violent.
Mm-hmm.
That kid, I think I'm saying Afalava from isn't he the one that's from
Utah?
Utah, yeah.
Who looks like he would shove his grandmother across the goal line to score a touchdown. Yeah.
Foji is the one that could end up possibly being better than being the best out of this group, right?
So we're gonna give Gabe Eichert has a heavy rep about criticizing the O-line and making O-line comments, right? Mm-hmm. So his comments when he saw Fasusi was like, Fasusi could be a starting offensive tackle after 3 weeks of Bill coaching him in the right techniques that he's not good at right now. And he said, and Ryan Foji has the best pass set drop he's seen on film in like 6 years of looking at high school offensive line.
We've seen some, and this is what I really feel like would have helped Rame those years. And that's why I was hoping Savion Bird would have been. Jason, you know this for sure because we've done a lot of pods where I've said it. I wanted 2 violent hog maulers inside by Rame to make up for.
And the 2026 kids are all Toa Katoa from Euless Trinity, massive Samoan kid, and then Pulailai, I probably butchered that, Primus from Midland, Mauler, and then Noah Best. Josh was in a scoop, just saw Noah Best the other night, and I was talking about how he was just physical, violent, and mauling people all game. There are maulers coming.
Yeah.
20. Bill, one thing, those folks, if they're not following recruiting heavily, Bill has a 2026 O-line already stacked up. He's got guys who want to be Sooners. We don't have verbals from them just because we've had the weird momentum this year. You've got an offensive line. He had 2 elite-looking offensive linemen in today visiting unofficially. one from Arizona, one from Virginia. The Virginia kid looks like an elite right tackle for 2026. And he's already offered all these 2027 kids as well, who've all camped with him as well and look good. So it's, if you're Brent and you're kind of weighing this, looks like Bill has flipped the way he's recruiting more kids, more offers, getting them into camp situations. It's just different. Everything looks different O-line recruiting. And I've criticized Bill's prior O-line recruiting in 23 and 22. So you guys can't say I'm some bandwagon guy, because on my podcast, we've criticized him before, not signing enough kids. I still think he needs another kid this year. They just lost the Pay kid, Austin Pay, chose Utah. They need another kid. I don't know who they're going to get, but the pipeline is stacked O-line wise for 26 and 27. Bill's never made this many early offers this far out for the kids like that. So it's, when you're thinking 25, 26 has a similar group of kids ready to go. Toa Katoa and Primus look like top 100 guards. And they're both these massive Polynesian Island kids. One's 6'4", 350, and the other one's 6'5", 330. And Afalava is from Utah, Poly kid, and he's brutalizing people. I mean, his senior year film is basically him
just mauling everybody.
Yeah. You put him on the other side from EPL if, maybe you figure things out. I mean, EPL is after the Duke Robinson personal foul trophy, right? He's off to a good start. One game, one personal foul penalty. So, but Duke Robinson from those great teams in 06, 07, and 08, routinely got a personal foul penalty, like one every other game, just because he was mauling people. So it's interesting to see how this will shake out. But I do think you saw signs today. Again, this is the most running yards we've had in like 6 years, I think. 384 is the most running yards we've had in 6 years. And we played a lot of crappy teams with better O-lines than what we have today.
Again, I wouldn't go too far with the whole what they did today or that kind of stuff, but I would say that I just want to see some competency in what is the game plan here. If you know you can dominate
effort, they hit people.
Yeah, if you know you can dominate doing a certain thing, then go do that. And they didn't get away from that thinking, okay, we need to go and put up as much passing yards as we possibly can today against this whatever secondary you think it is. They went out there and made sure they just ran the football because they knew they could run the football. So that, to me, it at least tells you that they're looking in the right direction as to what is it that they can do. Are they going to stack on some? If they find something in a game, are they willing to keep pushing that button until it breaks? And that's what I want to see them do. And, it's little victories, guys. It's little victories here and there that you're looking for at this point of the season when you've seen so little things to be happy about. It's not about beating Maine. Maine doesn't mean shit. It's about going out there and doing little things right that you have not seen them do at all year. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. Yeah, no, you're exactly right, Jason. It's they look competent, right? Guys, there was a great level of effort out there. They were hitting folks, and and Jovantae Barnes took advantage of it. So the O line's like, okay, we got a guy who's hitting it, knows how to find holes, and is running hard. So they're blocking harder for him. It's just a natural connection, right? I mean, it just makes sense. If we block correctly, we open a big hole for him, and he went for 55 yards. That just inspires you to do the same thing, play over play, right? I mean, you were blocking guys, and guys are making big plays. So again, it's Maine, but we haven't been good against. We've been bad against OU, right? We've been ineffective against OU. Against OU has been bad, right?
Bad
on offense, right? Now defense today, I think they were a little sloppy. But offensively,
the defense was in the game for very long.
They were. They were mentally had to wait. They needed a wake up call. They thought the game was still at 2:30 kick. But offensively, this was the first day, other than the fumble off the pitch, right? Was just bad play call, good play, bad play, good call, bad execution, bad call, whatever you want to say, right? This is the first game where you could have said offensively that you didn't think OU was killing OU.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we've been killing ourselves, right?
Gentlemen, can we all round of applause for the fact that that we fumble, turn the ball over, and in the very next drive we don't turn the ball over again, right?
Well, the defense goes out there and gets a stop, right? OU gets the ball back in like 45 seconds?
Yeah,
right.
Like it's like a bad Levy drive that Maine had. They threw twice to incompletions, and then they punted the ball, and then we put the ball right back in the end zone with Jovantae. So I think, again, we've been so bad. By the way, DJ Lagway just got carted off the field.
Yeah, he's hurt, and they're still ahead 10-3, and Georgia doesn't look very good right now.
Georgia plays down to their competition so much at this point. That's their biggest weakness. But again, we look competent. We didn't beat ourselves. You have to love the Robert Spears-Jennings, Peanut Tillman punch, and then he got the he got the fumble that right after this, right to start the second half. We come out of the second half. We've had bad starts to second half so lately in this losing streak, right? We came out instead. We defensive stop, forced a penalty, and then we put that ball right, forced a turnover, put the ball right in the end zone. Just good play calling, doing what we could do, not overthinking it too much. It's just, again, we've been so bad against ourselves. I know it's Maine, but, it was just nice to see us not cripple ourselves, execute, and beat up on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do that other than the defense did that against Temple game 1.
You just games like these right here, especially since we're in a
win how you're supposed to win, right?
Yeah, this is a hard reset, guys.
Yeah.
And this is something that just gives you a little bit more confidence in what's going on. And I think right now that's what this offense needs the most, is just confidence that, hey, we can move the ball. There are going to be opportunities to move the ball next week, right? On the road, it's going to be a night game. It's going to be a really good crowd, a really, really good crowd. But there's going to be opportunities to move the ball and all the rest of that stuff. But what you need games like this right here in the midst of losing, get everybody's, competitive juices flowing again. You get a win. You're back in the winners column. BV is not having to go to the podium to speak for an hour, which I applaud BV on not running from everything, not doing the Mike Gundy thing or just running away from it.
And he's talking from the hip, like, when he's putting out lines like, we just can't crap another offensive tackle, out there, he was blunt about it. He was talking about it. I think, it makes you wish that Brent is successful, because he's not just giving you the no answer coach speak. He's talking from the hip and giving you real answers. This is why we want Brent to be successful, right? Because we don't want to go back to Lincoln Riley interviews where it's like 5 minutes and he says, "We're close." Anything else, Coach? Nope, we're close.
Yeah, and then now they're cutting off the media as much as they possibly can there for Lincoln. So it is what it is. I don't think that you can stress enough. I think that there's certainly things that Brent, we would love for him to be better at. That's all there is to it. We don't care. Bevo's bodyguard, we could give a shit about the case that it was Maine. We don't care. That's not what it's about at all.
I think that's the thing that you guys came in late. It's all fun and stuff like that. But we're talking about the season as a whole. We're talking about this Maine game or whatever the case may be. It is what it is at this point. But finish your point.
No, I think Bagman kind of finishes it right there. For BV to be that guy, he needs to be more of an asshole kind of. And I agree to that to some extent. I think there's a reason that these guys want to play for him, but I think that you want to hold, it's like I said in my column this week, you have to hold this group of coaches accountable as well. Just like you want to hold yourself accountable. We know he holds himself accountable. I don't think that the problem that we've had all along is that you weren't holding Seth Luttrell accountable. You weren't holding that offensive side of the football accountable. And whether or not you think you have the ability to do that or you've ever been an offensive coach means nothing. I'm looking on the sideline at Texas A&M, and I'm watching Mike Elko command the flow of the football game from both sides of the ball. He doesn't care that he's not an offensive guy. He commands the flow, and that's what I want to see more of out of BV. I think the BV is the guy when it comes to recruiting and getting these guys amped up, and they love him. They're going to play hard for him. But the accountability factor has to be the same on both sides of the football, and nobody at Oklahoma, no Oklahoma fan is going to put up with this not being worth a shit on offense. Never.
No,
So,
I mean, it's again, he's burned all his, I did a quick survey of some OU fans, and basically their confidence level for Brent was like out of 10 was like an 8.5 in August, and now it's like a 4.2, right? Mm. And I've got like a couple of people who posted like one out of 10, 2 out of 10. So, he's got to do a great job with this hire, get the right guy in, get the right staffing configuration in, including making sure we've got a dedicated quarterback coach on staff, officially on staff, an official staff member.
That's right.
That he made the mistake. I like the fact Brent owns mistakes, right? Isn't trying to duck mistakes and stuff. Own the mistake, move on, but we don't want to see it again, right?
Look, guys, we've seen him make fixes. We're talking about this defense and all the rest of this.
Well, special teams is a lot better. I mean, it has
special teams. He's made. You've heard going into the season last year, 10 wins was on the table. That had to happen.
It bothers you. I think it bothers you that you allowed it to drop like that, and it feels like you didn't put the effort into making this hire that you probably should have. Right.
Yeah. You could have been a lot more. You could have been a lot more thorough.
My bigger problem is not course correcting fast enough.
Yes,
not identifying.
Facts.
Well, this is a bad. I've screwed up. I've effed up. I need to fix it.
The Houston game was honestly, that was the one.
Yeah, my quarterback looks like crap. He doesn't know what he's doing. Our offense looks like crap. We had 3 games to get everything tight for SEC play, and you've wasted those games. You've wasted 2 of those games, and we're playing Tulane, who's really good. Tulane might make the playoffs, for crying out loud. Thinking that we actually beat Tulane with how bad a season we've had is kind of funny. He should have pulled the trigger then. And I don't really care if everybody thinks, it's too early. You didn't give Seth enough time. No. If you're Brent, you say, it's done, guys. I had to make this decision.
It wasn't even that he didn't do it then, or at that point. It's that he didn't even do it after the damn Texas game. Your biggest rival, and you completely lay an egg out there and nothing. We've never done that during the season. You know what? You could have demoted him at that point. You could have done whatever. You could have done whatever you needed to do and not fired him completely. That I'm with you on the course correcting part. I didn't feel like he was course correcting fast enough, because then you got to turn around and get boat raced by a not good South Carolina team.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had course corrected earlier, promoted Johns, and put Joe John Finley in charge during the Tulane game, I don't think you ever end up benching Jackson and you avoid all this quarterback shuffle that you would have done, because I think Johns is making a difference. I think he really is.
Right. And that's where I say, I think that if you have anything that you're worrying about at this point about whether or not you get both these quarterbacks back, believe it, that the narrative will be out there, and it'll be in the media some. But it's not even that. There's going to be a narrative rolling around of all this, when the portal gets opened up and it's going to start getting crazy. It's free agency time. There's going to be a lot of talk about they don't have a damn clue what they're doing at Oklahoma with their quarterbacks.
Yeah. I think
you brought that on yourself by allowing this to be what it was.
Hopefully Johns has a good enough Jackson Arnold has a good enough end of this year, and Johns looks good that you can just say, we course corrected, we course corrected. Let's just, and I'm not going to let this happen. This isn't going to happen again.
I agree.
So I think that there's a chance to avoid all that. But I think overall, Chris, again, it was, you had a bad start, and it could have snowballed and gotten a little ugly in Norman. but you just took control offensively and defensively and dropped 35 straight points. Could have been could easily have been 42 straight points in the first half with good offensive execution, better defense, better assignment defense, and Arnold, was doing a good job distributing the ball at times. So it's just still running the ball well. And the biggest thing I give Joe John Finley credit for today is he didn't screw around. Once their O-line started leaning on them, he didn't screw around, and we didn't have a series where we went 3 and out where we threw the ball 3 times. And you're wondering, what the hell are we doing?
That's what I was saying. I keep pushing that button until you break the sucker.
Yeah.
When it's working, do it. And that's especially in the run game. That's how you take control of games later. Not talking about today. We're talking about when look, I want a guy that's going to say, hey, we're going to freaking impose our will on you with our offensive line. If we have the ability to do it, we're going to do it.
Yep. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and bounce. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. By the way, if you have not listened to my podcast, I dropped a recruiting podcast this morning. Please listen to it. It gives you an idea about the offensive tackles who visited. And Zach Alley had his best linebacker recruit on campus today since he became an OU coach. So recruiting stuff for you to listen to. Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast. Thanks, guys.
See you. Jason, we got about let's go ahead and finish this up ourselves.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I think that it's what we've kind of been saying already is that it doesn't have anything to do with Maine. This was never about Maine. It didn't have shit to do with them to start with before we started the game. It doesn't have nothing to do with them now. This was I think you said it, this was a hard reset. This was a hard reset that we had to do. It probably should have been done a lot earlier. It was done finally, after the South Carolina game. You saw some positives against a good Ole Miss team, not a great Ole Miss team, a good Ole Miss team a week ago, and at least for a half of the game. They looked really good. They put up over 250 yards in that game in the first half of the game. So you're starting to see movement in the right direction on the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, at the end of the day, you've got to see more from them moving forward. But this is all about little wins, little incrementally getting better from week to week. And on that offensive line, finding out what you got there. I am truly a believer that I don't want to see them being crazy in the portal and going and getting everybody you can get out of the portal. I don't think that you need that anymore. I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that Lincoln Riley's last couple of years, they were getting a couple of linemen in those recruit classes, right? 2 to 3. So they were a little light. You have a couple of years where you got guys that, more than one person leaves or whatever, then it puts you kind of in a bad position where you had to rely on the portal. Yeah. I don't think that you have to do that at this point. I think that with the last, basically 3 cycles, plus this one coming up, you've got a nice group of guys that you should be able to get the right line out of, right? You should be able to find your group there. If there's a guy that's, whatever reason, he's a big time SEC lineman and he's, for whatever reason he's in the portal, sure, fill up with that guy. But that's all you should have to do at this point.
I think you got to find some middle ground. I think that like Chris Mason said, I think that was big for him to say because he didn't want to necessarily do it. But I think there's maybe 1 to 2 guys out there in the portal that you could maybe add to this, but they're going to have to be guys. I think they can't come in here with that, like a Spencer Brown or even Fabechi. I mean, because some of these guys are honestly they're bag ups or kind of rotational pieces. Gap filler pieces almost. But as far as final thoughts, man, I thought that I look, great day of OU football, great day for this team. Get some confidence about yourself to go ahead and finish this season. This is what you're supposed to do with the Maines of the world. No disrespect, but this is what you're supposed to do. Still got a long way to go, and this is bleeding into next season, but we still got a long way to go. But finish the season right, man. Be bowl eligible, not just 6 wins, not 6-6 or whatever. No, go out there and get you 2 more wins. Go out there. If Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. BV's able to go and win these last 3 games.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are saying, no, he's a good coach. I think injuries, a lot of different things just caught up with him this year. OC
big
obviously
if,
got to go do what he's doing. It's a big if. Hell,
That's
if
a big ass if.
he goes 7 and
Big
5,
ass
I think that still makes people feel a lot better.
He's 7 and 5 is better than 6 and 6, no doubt. And it's always all of it's better than 5 and 7. So look, I think that in the end, you have to look and take this for what it is because of the fact that you did have that many injuries, not just to the receiver room, which had its part, but the offensive line room. And again, I would tell you that as much as I think the offensive line hasn't been good, I think we're seeing that they know what they're doing now. They've simplified things a little bit. They've gone a little bit more basic, and they're willing to do that just to kind of get back going. It was a hard reset. Yes, go get to 7 and 5. Go get to 6 and 6, 7 and 5, whatever. If you can win one of those last 2 games, you need to go beat Missouri because Missouri talks shit. Richard Shearer, Missouri is going down next week, bro. It is a hate week now for you guys because you guys always talk shit. And so, yeah, we don't like you this week. No, in the end, I want to see you win that game for sure. But I think you go a long way toward making people in Norman happy if you just go in and win one of those last 2 games. You beat Alabama, you go on the road and beat LSU. Here we go. You know what I mean? Here we go. Mm-hmm. So, look, I don't think you're ever going to be completely happy because most people in Norman and any Oklahoma fan wanted to see you make a playoff run this year. I don't think there's any 2 ways around it. You lose and you lose badly to Texas. That's a sucky season. That's a sucky season, but you got to take what you can get out of this when they're still recruiting about as well as anybody in the country. And if you can continue doing that, then that's the main thing moving forward. Make sure you lock down this offensive line. We don't necessarily have this problem anymore. That's where I'm at.
No, I feel you.
Good times. Kchris, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for having me. It's a joint show, right?
Joint show. Hey, it's always good times when we get together. Obviously, you get a hold of us make sure that you are hitting the like button on both of these streams. We're at Hall of Fame College Football. It's at HOF-CFB right here on YouTube if you're on the Horns Down. And hey, it's time to get Kchris to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Get over there to the Horns Down podcast and hit that damn button. He's putting out content throughout the week with a lot of really good. You and Barry the other night did a great job. Enjoyed the show. Again, he's putting out a ton of really, really good content. He has been from the start. I love doing work with you, my man, and enjoying it as we go along, even though it's been a tough season.
It's been a tough season, bro. We're gonna figure this out though. But that being said, guys, we are